West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goët.
Tonight on the Readout.
And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed, it'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
Do you believe if Donald Trump were elected next year that he would try to stay in office beyond a second term? That he would never leave office?
There's no question.
You think he would try to stay in power forever?
Absolutely.
The stakes could not be higher. Trump says if he wins, you won't have to vote anymore. Tonight, we are laying out the dangers of Project 2025, the manifesto that would give him that authoritarian power, limit your rights, and force you and your family to change the way you live your life. And we begin this special episode of The Readout tonight with a dire warning for our democracy. Over the next hour, I will lay out the greatest threat to the American democratic experiment in modern times. And it's called Project 2025. With just 99 days till Election Day, and with voting starting a lot sooner than that in some states like Pennsylvania, where early voting begins in September, it is imperative that every American understand what Project 2025 is about and how it would affect every single one of us if it was ever enacted. Tonight is just the first of many nights where we will dig into this dangerous plan. And I really want you to listen, learn, take notes, and share it with everyone you know. And if you look on your screen, you'll notice that QR code where you can find our segments on Project 2025 so you can share them. So let's start with the basics. This is the 922-page MAGA manifesto. We printed the whole thing out. And it's brought to you by one of the most conservative DC think tanks, the Heritage Foundation. This is the culmination of nearly 50 years of work that began during the Reagan administration. Broadly, according to Heritage President Kevin Roberts, this is a Christian nationalist plan to end what he calls the Great Awakening and, quote, rescue our kids, reclaim our culture, revive our economy, and defeat the anti-American left at home and abroad. This manifesto, which they call a book, is a specific roadmap on how to accomplish that by giving a Republican president unprecedented power. They do that by slashing the federal government's footprint, gutting regulations, slashing the money we spend on children, students, the elderly, the environment, education, and reproductive health care. Every single chapter describes in excruciating detail how to reorder our society by dismantling federal agencies and limiting the federal government's ability to help protect you, the American people, from predatory businesses, excessive taxes, poisoned air and water, you name it. Lately, former President Donald Trump and his campaign, fearful of how unpopular Project 2025 is, have claimed they have nothing to do with it.
I don't know what the hell it is. It's Project 25. He's involved in Project, and then they read some of the things, and they are extreme. I mean, they're seriously extreme. But I don't know anything about it. I don't want to know anything about it.
Yeah, but that's not the complete picture. Here is Trump promoting the Heritage Foundation and their little project just 2 years ago.
Heritage does such an incredible job, and they're going to lay the groundwork and detail plans for exactly what our movement will do and what your movement will do when the American people give us a colossal mandate to save America. And that's coming. That's coming.
Here's the other truth. Roughly 140 individuals who worked in Trump's administration are affiliated with Project 2025, including 6 former cabinet secretaries and 4 people who were nominated as ambassadors by Trump. The others were either key figures from his first transition, close Oval Office allies, or mid-level agency officials. There's Russell Vought, Trump's former Office of Management and Budget Director, who wrote Chapter 2 in the section titled Taking the Reins of Federal Government. In this chapter, he lays out how to consolidate power around a president's political vision. He explains how you can bypass Congress and only fund projects that ensure consistency with the president's agenda. He is rumored to be Trump's choice for chief of staff. And according to Politico, he and Trump speak once a month. Vought hopes his close relationship with Trump will elevate Christian nationalism as a focal point of a second Trump administration. Then there's Roger Severino, a former Trump administration DOJ official, who wrote Chapter 14 about the Department of Health and Human Services and how to restrict abortion access across the country. Severino is a dogmatic anti-abortion militant who strongly believes that an America that allows abortion cannot survive.
The federal government has an absolute role in this. There cannot be now 2 Americas. One America where unborn life is protected and another where unborn life is treated as the equivalent of medical waste. Yeah. Right? That is untenable. This has to be settled nationally. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Yeah. We can't have 2 classes of Americans.
In Project 2025, he advocates for using the regulatory powers of the Department of Health and Human Services, the Food and Drug Administration, and the Department of Justice and the National Institutes of Health to end access to mifepristone, prohibit stem cell research, and create, quote, pro-life task force in the White House. There's also Richard Hanania, who helped contribute to Project 2025. Now, he's not a recognizable name, but he's a popular conservative activist with fans like J.D. Vance, Peter Thiel, and Elon Musk, who just so happens to be a noted racist and sexist. The Huffington Post reported that Hanania used a fake pen name to write articles and social media posts that expressed support for eugenics and forced sterilization of, quote, low IQ people, whom he argued were most often black. And he dreamed about a white awakening, which is when whites en masse realize that they are superior to non-whites and that they'd be better off abandoning multiracial democracy for something resembling a whites-only ethno-state. While those guys are cooking up plans for how the government would work and who it would work for, John McEntee, Trump's former body man and former director of his presidential personnel office, is working with Project 2025 to build the enforcement army. He is currently a senior advisor at Project 2025 with the single task of creating a resume database of dedicated MAGA warriors to staff up every agency. Well, the ones that they don't shutter completely, like the Department of Education, on day one. Here's what McEntee wrote when he took the job. Quote, The presidential personnel database will be of extraordinary value for the 47th president because we are doing a lot of the incoming administration's most important work ahead of time, unquote. Then there is Trump's running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, a self-described radicalized Republican who is a champion of Kevin Roberts and his plan to turn the Heritage Foundation into the de facto institutional home of Trumpism. Here you see Vance and Roberts together on a panel last year at an event hosted by the Intercollegiate Institute, which is a conservative organization for college students. This particular discussion was about regime change and the future of liberalism. Guess what else? Kevin Roberts has a book coming out in September, and J.D. Vance wrote the foreword to that book, in which he praises Roberts' vision for America. He also wrote, "We are now all realizing that it's time to circle the wagons and load the muskets. In the fights that lay ahead, these ideas are an essential weapon." Vance's current political ideology lines up pretty succinctly with that of Project 2025, and his backing of Kevin Roberts, along with his frequent appearances on Tucker Carlson's talk show, might explain why he is on the Trump ticket. This clip from his Senate campaign run might also have helped too.
I think that what Trump should do, like if I was giving him one piece of advice, fire every single mid-level bureaucrat, every civil servant in the administrative state, replace them with our people. Yeah, I mean, I think we got to do the hard work of institution building. And again, I've got friends who are working on this very problem right now, such that if there is a Trump administration round 2 or a DeSantis or a Hawley administration, that we actually have the bureaucracy in place so that that person can govern effectively and not be constantly undercut.
Trump, Vance, future staffers, future administration officials, and all of his former employees support parts or all of Project 2025. Do we really think that they would not implement these ideas if given the chance?
It is Tuesday, the 30th of July of 2024, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner, the English bulldog, is our snoozing sous chef. Precious, our little Yorkie, the door girl, actually is lounging right beside me as we speak, but we will be seating you directly for your especially special daily special. Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays, a small scant dash, a mere pinch of hot smoked Hungarian paprika will make all the difference in the world. It always has, and it always will. Yeah. Okay, well, how are you? Little Precious is, she had I would say sort of a bad day yesterday. And though she perked up a little bit towards the end of the day, ate some food and drank water. So she was up this morning and in the back, so she climbed down some stairs, a couple of steps to get to the back room last night, and it looks like she slept there for a bit of time. But I carried her back into the living room and got her morning medicine. It's a liquid prednisone. And so she did drink some water, and so that's actually a good sign, is that she's drinking water. I can tell that she's uncomfortable because you may be able to hear she is panting a little bit in the background until the prednisone kicks in. We go for her regular IV drip tomorrow. So I may call Dr. Dickey today to see if I should give her some other pain medicine also, or just wait. And it may be that we wait because I don't know. I am so confused. It's my little baby again, and I'm responsible for her well-being, and I don't want her to be uncomfortable and suffer. Okay, but she did get through the day, and she got through the night and moved about on her own and climbed down some stairs. She's a little wavery, a little weak in the back haunches. So that inflammation is kicking back in. which probably means the white blood cell count has increased. Right when we had been so happy that it was from 90-something down to 45. And but in the midst of that, as you remember, for those of you who have been following this travail, I did mention that to Dr. Dickey and the world that she could drop tomorrow, and I'm going to love her while I have her. But, darn it, she's pretty sick. Anyway, Gunner's doing well, knock on wood. His surgery for the eye fold that is turning inward and the hairs there are scratching his eyeball and causing him quite a bit of discomfort is in September, early September. He will hopefully have lost a bit more pounds, a bit more weight in that time. He lost almost 3 pounds or over 3 pounds when I took him in for his checkup, and everybody was very happy about that. So hopefully by keeping him on this diet, he's getting out a little bit more too. We haven't had as many smoky days this year, knock on wood, and the days haven't been so unbearably and unlivably hot that we're able to get out and he can run around a little bit, which he likes to do. So what else is happening in the world? Oh yeah, the world. Not only here in the United States, but it's not necessarily, I'm mentioning this, it's not necessarily a harbinger of things to come because it's already here. But this Maduro claiming victory when he lost by 30 points. And I love how our media is both siding the situation. It's like, we just don't know. Yeah, you don't know because you don't care to know. And Maduro just came out before the election results were even counted and declared himself the winner. And so the AP just said Maduro is declared the winner, not saying that he's the one that declared himself the winner. No one else declared him the winner. He just came out there and said, I'm the winner. Got me for another 21 years. Yeah. Well, at least one party rule for the last 20 years. But there's a reason why Donald Trump likes Maduro, because he wants to do what they get to do. Why do they get to run their people around? Why do people have to applaud them? Why are they forced to applaud me? All right. That's the way it is. So, what else is happening in the world? That's a lot, isn't it? Yeah, I get a little worried just as I'm torn between the show, because the show must go on, and my poor little precious in discomfort right now and panting out of discomfort, which we like to use in terms of the term pain. Yeah. We used to do that when we were jocks. Oh, don't call it pain, call it discomfort. Oh, yeah, that makes it feel a lot better, doesn't it? Well, it does. It's not painful. It's just uncomfortable. Okay. Well, your arm's hanging out of socket. Is that painful? It's just a bit of discomfort. A bit. Okay. Well, like I said, the prednisone takes a little bit of time to kick in, apparently, or hopefully it kicks in. It's not necessarily pain medicine, but it is for her. That's why I'm wondering if maybe she should get some pain medicine, but I don't know. We'll find out. Anyway, the world. Let's see. Oh, the white dudes for Harris raised $4 million in their little time at raising money, which is quite amazing because the ones that came before them raised that and more. But there's been a little bit of an issue about Elon, we'll just call him Musk, suspending the account of Dudes for Harris. Now, I'm not sure if it's the official, because I've heard from Ragnarok Lobster, Electra Brother, that he believes that the suspended group was one that was a fake group, shall we say. One that, it looks like they were riding on the coattails of the official group. We'll see. But it does seem rather curious that Elon Musk would suspend a group that raised $4 million. So if it was the fake group, okay, well then that's a good one. But it looks like it wasn't the fake group. So we'll see about that. Anyway, he's a free speech absolutist, and that means that he absolutely determines what free speech is. I mean, come on. He's an apartheid blood emerald heir. He's been entitled and has had total immunity since birth. You're born into it, okay? Those people are born into it, and they're really pissed off with our multicultural democracy because we don't believe in, royalty. Okay. All right. What do we have in store for you? I could keep going on, but I'm not going to. What do we have in store for you here in the Bistro Cafe, West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy on this fabulous, and it is quite fabulous outside right now, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. Well, I decided to give Joy Reid a re-listen, shall we say, as she pointed out the roughly 140 people who had worked in Trump's administration are affiliated with Project 2025. So he can run, but he cannot hide. On the rest of the menu, a hooded hooligan. Okay, a hooded hooligan vandalized a Hollywood, California synagogue as an accomplice recorded it. All caught on security camera, by the way. Federal authorities charged a construction company in a deadly Idaho airport hangar collapse had ignored well-established safety standards. When you get rid of the regulatory state, shit happens. And Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey signed a nearly $58 billion state budget bill that includes a plan for free community college. Like in the good old days. And they were, in many respects. After the break, because there were some bad times too, like a lot of guys dying in Vietnam. But other than that, free college. Remember those days? Wow. Yeah, that's when we decided and believed that we could make an investment in America. Let's do that again. Okay, after the break, we move to the chef's table where a historic UNESCO World Heritage Park in Germany grapples with dying trees as climate change kicks in. Yeah, well, don't tell that to some dumb Americans. And a diplomatic spat has erupted between Hungary and Poland over conflicting views on Russia. Yeah, well, that happens. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com. Democracy under construction, because our homepage is still under construction as well. But Tom has provided a link to our Patreon page near the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, off to the right there. So take a look, and if you could help us, we could really use the help. If you could afford to send us what you might spend on an espresso-type coffee drink once a month, boy, that really does help us pay, put a big dent in the bills, because, we still take quite a bit of funds out of our own pockets because we consider it so important to do what is being done here as a bulwark against, the fascist takeover of everything that's right and good in America and around the world. So thank you for your generosity in allowing us to fulfill our civic duty as the founders originally intended so many years ago. If you would like to follow Netroots Radio on the social medias, you can do so by going to @Netroots Radio. In most cases, other times it's simply Netroots Radio, but you know that. Anyway, Tom takes care of those, most of them. We all kind of take care of Facebook, but maybe Kelly even a little bit more. But regardless, Tom takes care of most of those, and so follow us there. And thank you for doing so. If you would like to follow me on if you would like to follow me on the social medias, I'll get it. I haven't actually consumed enough coffee this morning. That's my excuse. Follow me on the social medias at Justice Putnam, and I suggest that you do so because that way you'll have quick access to the show notes and links diaries in which you can read the actual full articles. Well, those links will take you to the actual full articles that we find such great inspiration here at Netroots Radio in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. So, at Justice Putnam in most cases as well. Follow the show on Twitter, such as it is, as Twitter and the show is, at Cookbook West. And pick up podcasts, please do, by way of Spreaker, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, iTunes, and really wherever podcasts can be found. Even Audible. We made it to Audible. Yay. All right, let's tuck into this first offering here. In the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Just tiny little update. It looks like the prednisone has kicked in, and little Precious is now napping, and that's good. She's not panting in discomfort. All right. Suzanne Rust, a staff writer, her own appellation, by the way, at the LA Times, brings us this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. A Hollywood synagogue was vandalized on Thursday night the second time this summer. Los Angeles police are investigating the incidents as potential hate crimes, and an LAPD spokesman said officers took a hate crime report at the scene. Video captured by the synagogue security cameras shows two hooded men crossing Melrose Avenue and approaching the entrance of Kahal Avos Yisrael on Thursday night. Then one of the men, wearing a dark hoodie, hands his cell phone over to the other man who was wearing a light hoodie. The man in the dark hoodie then begins to bang on the windows with his forearm before drawing an unidentifiable blunt instrument from his sleeve and then using the object to smash the windows of the place of worship. The man in the light sweatshirt appears to record video of the incident with the cell phone. Donnie Dror, a board member of the synagogue, said the men smashed the windows but did not go inside. No property was stolen. I just want to interject real quick. I lived right around the corner from that synagogue when I lived in the Melrose district, Fairfax. He said the synagogue had been vandalized just a few weeks before, and he believes the incidents are related and hate-driven. Well, I think he's right. An LAPD spokesman did not provide specifics about the earlier incident, nor did he shed light on the current investigation, other than to confirm a hate crime report was taken the following day. Anti-Semitic hate crimes have surged since the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel, according to the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. And I'll tell you, it seemed astroturf from the very beginning, because before the day of October 7th was up, well, we had the, leave Hamas alone, you're a genocide. Well, I'm just saying. In the months after the attack, there was a 36% increase in anti-Semitic incidents across the U.S., and incidents totaled 3,291 between October 7th of last year and January 7th of 2024. Associated Press staff brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Federal safety investigators yesterday, Monday, cited a construction company in the deadly collapse of an Idaho airport hangar, saying it exercised a blatant disregard for federal safety standards. OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, proposed nearly $200,000 in penalties for Big D builders. The penalties stem from one willful violation and 3 serious violations of federal safety regulations. Big D builders' blatant disregard for federal safety regulations cost 3 workers their lives and caused at least 8 others to suffer painful injuries, OSHA Area Director David Kern said. Big D Builders, based in Meridian, Idaho, in an emailed statement said the company had no comment on the report or its findings because of a pending lawsuit filed by the families of 2 of the construction workers who were killed. Federal inspectors found the company had started building the hangar without sufficient bracing or tension wires, and that numerous indications that the structure was unstable and bending were ignored. The private hangar at the Boise airport was still under construction when it collapsed under high winds on January 31st. The families of Mario Sante and Mariano Koch filed the wrongful death lawsuit against Big D Builders, Steel Building Systems, Inland Crane, and Spec Steel in federal court, asking for unspecified monetary damages. Both Sante, age 32, and Koch, age 24, had been working on the hangar job for only 6 days when the massive metal structure collapsed. They'd been sent to the hangar from another construction site by Big D Builders because the shell of the building was supposed to be completed by the end of January, according to the lawsuit. Big D Builders co-owner Craig Durant, age 59, also died when the structure fell.
Bye.
LeBlanc of the Associated Press brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey signed a nearly $58 billion state budget bill yesterday, Monday, that includes a plan for free community college and allows the Massachusetts Lottery to move some of its products online. For balance. The spending bill will also pay for literacy programs for children from age 3 through 3rd grade, cover the state's free school breakfast and lunch program, and fully fund tax cuts included in the last state budget. Massachusetts today, we are firing on all cylinders, Healey, a Democrat, said moments after signing the budget. I just want to say, when Democrats are allowed to govern, they do. Okay, they get things done. Now, the budget sets aside more than $117 million for a free community college program across the state, covering tuition and fees for students. The 15 community colleges in Massachusetts serve more than 90,000 students, about 70% of whom attend school part-time while juggling work and family commitments. To be eligible for free tuition, students must be pursuing a degree at a public community college in Massachusetts and complete the free application for federal student aid or a state equivalent of the federal application for federal student aid form. Well, that's good news. Let's us now go to our break, and when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we have curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Happy Monday, listeners. Let's kick off the week by catching up on some science news. For Science Quickly, I'm Rachel Feltman.
Right over here, guys. Right over here. Right over here. Can we get turn around? Turn around. Turn around. Turn around.
If you enjoyed photos of the red carpet fashion from the Met Gala last Monday, chances are good you encountered at least one artificial intelligence-generated fake. Katy Perry posted screenshots suggesting that even her own mother got duped by an AI-generated image appearing to show the pop singer in a floral gown. It just so happens that on Tuesday, ChatGPT developer OpenAI announced a new tool designed to detect images made using the company's DALL-E 3 generator. OpenAI says internal tests found that the tool was able to identify about 98% of images generated by DALL-E 3. The creators did note, however, that any post-AI changes made to the images, including shifts in coloring, made the tool more likely to fail. Sam Gregory, executive director of technology-focused human rights nonprofit Witness, told NPR that good media literacy and common sense make a better defense against deepfakes than currently available digital tools. While a fake photo of Katy Perry may not pose a global threat, other images could have more serious implications, particularly during an election year. Gregory noted that if just one image or video is circulating from a supposed event, internet users should ask themselves why there aren't any corroborating sources. He also suggested doing internet searches to try and confirm basic facts related to the images, such as whether the subject was actually in the location pictured at the time the photograph was supposedly taken. And now onto stars of a different nature. Last week, the long-delayed first crewed launch of Boeing's Starliner capsule was, you guessed it, delayed.
Before our targeted liftoff time of 10:34 p.m. Eastern Time, the launch team decided to stand down from today's launch attempt.
With just 2 hours until liftoff, NASA astronauts Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore were already strapped in when mission controllers scrubbed the launch last Monday night. The launch team made the call because of odd behavior from an oxygen relief valve on the rocket meant to carry the capsule. The valve is going to be replaced, which means the Starliner will launch no earlier than May 17th.
Really appreciate you having an interest in the NASA Boeing Crew Flight Test mission, and we hope that you join us for when we do launch. Have a great night.
Looking ahead at this coming week in science, folks in the Washington, D.C. area will have the chance to hear the latest policy and science news about space junk at this year's Science on the Hill event. One recent report counted nearly 3,000 new satellites added to Earth's orbit in 2023 alone, which marks a record high and a nearly 15% increase from 2022. As more satellites fill the sky and eventually become inactive, like more than 3,300 of the ones currently in orbit, the average gaps between them will decrease, raising the risk of collisions. Late last month, Japanese company Astroscale released the first ever up-close picture of space junk taken from orbit, a demonstration of the company's ability to bring its spacecraft near debris without slamming into it. The company is partnering with the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA, on plans to try the same maneuver with the addition of a robotic arm to shove the trash into our atmosphere. The friction of re-entry should be enough to destroy the debris, though this method doesn't always work perfectly. In March, a cylindrical object weighing nearly 1 kilogram crashed into a family home in Florida. NASA later identified it as detritus from the International Space Station that was expected to burn up during re-entry. The European Space Agency, JAXA, and NASA all have programs in place to identify innovative solutions to the space junk problem. This year's Science on the Hill event, which is open to the general public, will feature experts in space law and cosmic trash removal, along with Scientific American editors, discussing how humans can combat the issue of extraterrestrial rubbish. The panel will take place on Friday, May 17th at 12 p.m. in Washington, D.C. You can find more info at bit.ly/scienceonthehill. That's bit.ly/scienceonthehill. Here's something a little passé to brighten your day. Just about a century ago to the day, Scientific American's May 1924 cover celebrated the then cutting-edge technology of radio broadcasting. While Canadian physicist Reginald Fassenden sent the first long-distance radio broadcast of music and voice back in 1906, the first commercial radio station wouldn't open until 1920. So it's not surprising that 100 years ago, contributors to Scientific American were still pretty jazzed about the whole thing. Here's what they had to say about what they called the gentle art of broadcasting.
How quickly we have become accustomed to broadcasting. Only a few years back, we were contented to spend our evenings reading the newspaper, a magazine, or a bulky book. If we desired a little entertainment, we went to the nearby motion picture house or to the theater. Today, it is quite different. On our way home, we look through our newspaper for the radio programs. Instead of having to go out for our entertainment, we have merely to turn the dials of our radio receiver to the proper settings, and the entertainment comes to us from out of the sky. It is now too commonplace to be fully appreciated, this wonderful thing called broadcasting.
There's no denying the magic of radio, but I do wonder what the SciAm contributors of 1924 would have had to say about podcasting.
We merely have to scroll through our personalized feeds and the entertainment comes to us from out of the sky. Wild.
That's it for this week's Science News Digest. But don't worry, we've got plenty of exciting programs for you to look forward to the next time you desire a little entertainment. Check back this Wednesday for a chat about brand new cannabis research that could change the way you toke. On Friday, we'll take you on a deep dive into troubling environmental news out of Cape Cod. We've got some other awesome Friday fascinations on deck, too. Immersive stories about everything from the beauty of math to the mysteries of deep-sea archaeology. It's going to be a wild ride, and we promise we'll save you a seat. Science Quickly is produced by Rachel Feltman, Kelso Harper, Corinne Leong, Madison Goldberg, and Jeff Delvicio. Ella Fetter, Alexa Lim, Madison Goldberg, and Anaisa Ruiz Tejada edit our show, with fact-checking from Shada Poses and Aaron Shattuck. Our theme music was composed by Dominic Smith. Subscribe to Scientific American for more up-to-date and in-depth science news. Do you have an idea for a story we should cover or some feedback about our new episode formats? Give us a shout at sciencequickly@sciam.com. For Science Quickly, I'm Rachel Feltman. See you next time.
Hi, it's Tom. Could we humbly suggest your donation to netrootsradio.com? All we've got to run this 24-hour powerhouse of progressive resistance radio is what comes out of our own wallets. And you are our biggest donor. And it doesn't take much, $3, $5. Just go to the bottom of our netrootsradio.com page and hit our secure donate button. Heck, you can even make a recurring contribution, and you'll get a wondiferous pair of Netroots radio stickers for application to your backpack, your bumper sticker, or your banjo. Well, it's up to you which backpack you want to put it on. So donate what you'd like at the bottom of our netrootsradio.com's homepage, because you are our biggest donor. netrootsradio.com. Together, we are Resistance Radio.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. When citizens move or die, voter registration lists need to be updated as part of routine list hygiene. But when lists are aggressively purged, particularly close to an election, it crosses the line into voter suppression. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp signed Senate Bill 189 in May, allowing voters to be removed from the rolls as little as 45 days before an election. In addition to Georgia's purge of over 190,000 voters in 2023, activists are expected to challenge thousands more at the polls under new SB 189 rules. Wyoming employed its new Use It or Lose It law in May to remove 28% of its registered voters, according to reporting by Wildfile. The law requires any voter not voting in the prior midterm or general election to be removed from its voter rolls. The Ohio Capitol Journal reported July 25th that Ohio's Secretary of State posted a list of over 158,000 voters scheduled to be purged prior to the presidential election. The executive director of the Ohio Unity Coalition, speaking to Dayton Now, said, "What we know is that 50% of these voters are registered in Ohio counties where a majority black and brown population live." Voters should check the status of their registration online or with their local election officials. Find links at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1866. That was the day known as the Mechanics' Institute Massacre. Black and white Republicans in New Orleans called a constitutional convention to consider voting rights for African Americans. It would be another 3.5 years before the ratification of the 15th Amendment. Freedmen, many of them Civil War veterans, gathered at the Faubourg Marny and proceeded to march to the convention held at the Mechanics' Institute on Canal Street. Just before they reached the Institute, black Republicans were confronted by a mob of white Democrats, ex-Confederate soldiers, and police determined to prevent blacks from attaining any semblance of civil or political rights. The delegates were able to momentarily beat back the mob and reach the Mechanics' Institute. But the racist mob charged again and started shooting. By the time it was over, at least 50 mostly black Republicans were shot dead in the street. More than 200 were seriously injured. Historian Justin Nystrom notes that it was an absolute massacre. But he adds, it was actually very useful to the Republican Party because it gave them a concrete example of the kinds of problems former Confederates were causing in the South. He adds that events such as these helped influence voters to bring more radical Republicans into Congress. These politicians would be key to to passing the Reconstruction Acts. Nystrom points to a poem written by Camille Naudin to commemorate the one-year anniversary of the massacre. Titled Ode to the Martyrs, the poem mourns the massacred while bitterly observing that Jefferson Davis remained alive. But for the mulattoes, blacks, and whites, this fact I must tell, she writes. Victor LaCroix is dead. Jeff Davis lives still. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. We always begin, whether from around the world, along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 66 degrees Fahrenheit, under mostly cloudy conditions, and temps should be nearly the same as yesterday, which was in the low to mid-90s. Winds will be out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Clear skies overnight with lows in the upper 50s, low 60s. Winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then mainly sunny skies tomorrow with highs over 100. Winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Grass pollen is rated moderate here in Rogue River. The air quality index for the region is in the good range at 8 parts per million. And that daytime UV index is very high at level 8. Take care. Barometric pressure is falling at 30.02 inches. Visibility is up to 10 miles. And relative humidity is at 71%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world, and that is the Weather Underground. London is 88 degrees and sunny. Paris is 96 and sunny with a thunderstorm and heat advisory. Rome is 96 and sunny with a severe heat advisory. Kabul is 78 and clear. Hong Kong is 80 degrees with rain. Tokyo is 84 and mostly cloudy. Auckland, New Zealand is 51 and fair. San Francisco, California is 58 degrees with heavy fog. Chicago, Illinois is 79 and sunny. And New York, New York is 81 degrees Fahrenheit and partly cloudy. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. Guillermo Molson at the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. The avenues, monuments, and gardens in the park surrounding Sanssouci Palace, a sprawling green oasis in the heart of the German city of Potsdam, and a UNESCO World Heritage Site, look as magnificent as ever. But a closer look shows that not all is well with the park's trees, which increasingly are struggling with the effects of climate change. Among the signs are beech trees with thinning crowns, big branches that have crashed to the ground, and trunks with much of their bark peeled off. I have been watching this garden for over 30 years, and I see very serious changes, says Sven Kursech, a former chief gardener for part of the park. Since 2017 or 2018, we have had a very, very serious increase in trees and shrubs dying. It's not just dying. The health of the trees is changing, he said. The region experienced a particularly hot and dry summer in 2018, followed by several more years with little rain. Comparatively wet summers last year and this year have not made up for their effects. Heat and lack of rain are not the only problems, Kurchek said. Climate change is more complex. Well-watered trees standing on the banks of streams and lakes also show signs of distress. Constant harsh sunlight, a lack of atmospheric humidity, storms, increasing fungal infections, and the spread of insect species that did not previously occur in the area are among other factors that play a part. From 2002 until 2015, the park lost between 18 and 87 trees every year. The number has not dropped below 100 since. It reached 315 in 2020 before falling back somewhat. The Prussian Palaces and Gardens Foundation, which oversees Sanssouci Park and many other sites in Berlin and the surrounding state of Brandenburg, is telling the story of trees' struggle with climate change in an open-air exhibition this summer titled Regeneration. At points around the park, visitors can see examples of the problems and ideas for how they might be tackled. Sanssouci Palace itself was the summer residence of Prussian King Frederick II, better known as Frederick the Great. It was completed in 1747 with opulent vineyard terraces, a royal retreat with a name that translates from French as carefree. The garden was later expanded substantially, growing into a 19th century landscape park that covers nearly 740 acres and measures more than 1.25 miles from east to west. It has nearly 60 gardeners and has been part of UNESCO's World Heritage List since 1990. Vanessa Guerra and Ballant Domator at the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. A diplomatic spat has erupted between Poland and Hungary that lays bare the deep tensions within Europe over how to deal with Russia when it is waging war on Ukraine. Poland, like Germany, France, and most other European nations, is a staunch ally of Ukraine, while Hungary's populist Prime Minister Orbán is widely considered to have the warmest relations with the Kremlin among all EU leaders. The Polish government has been openly critical of Hungary for its stance. The spat erupted when Orbán lashed out at Poland over the weekend. The Poles are pursuing the most sanctimonious and the most hypocritical policy in the whole of Europe. They are lecturing us morally, criticizing us for our economic relations with Russia, and at the same time they are doing business with the Russians and buying oil indirectly and running the Polish economy with it, Orbán said. That triggered a denial, an angry response from a Polish deputy foreign minister. who said on Sunday, "We do not do business with Russia," unlike Prime Minister Orban, who was on the margins of international society, both in the European Union and NATO. Poland was once dependent on Russian energy sources, but has been working for years to wean itself off Russian oil and gas. After Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Poland decided to end all of its Russian oil imports. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, but you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up here tomorrow for Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks, and we will meet up here tomorrow, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair. T'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.